Welcome to Tamco's tutorials. This tutorial is on the epoxy high build. One thing you must remember is induction time. You must mix well, add the hardener, and stir. 3 minutes minimum, shaken or not. You shake and stir before you add the two together. Induction time, 30 minutes to 45.
Welcome to Tamco's tutorials. This tutorial is on the 77 series high build epoxy. AB mixed 1:1. Very important that you mix the two together very carefully and thoroughly. Use a stick for each one. Don't use a stick on one or the other. It'll harden whatever you put it in, even wiped off.
This is after.
And make sure this has been on the shaker, as you've seen in the video. Shake both. Primer and the catalyst, the hardener. They both need to be shook well. 3 minutes at least on each one. Then you're good to go. Stir them up by hand and mix. Usually mix into a separate cup. Remember, it's a 30-minute induction time. Mix what you think you're going to do. We're going to do the grill on the Bronco and the tailgate. Outside of the tailgate on the Bronco.
400 mils.
Raptor. Back of this is going Raptor. So after you're stirred and shaken very, very well, 1:1. I like
200 mils
instead of the mixes. 2, 1, 3, 1, 4, 1. I'd rather use the milliliters.
1:1 is easy. 200 milliliters.
I'm only going to dump in about 200 milliliters.
To 200 milliliters of the hardener.
Right now, when you do this, your lids collect it. Pop a hole where you pour at. You can go all the way around.
If you've ever hammered your lid back on and it splatters everywhere, this will stop that.
You put your lid on, it pushes it back down in there.
I also recommend you put masking tape around it to seal that lid when you're done.
Catalyst, 1:1. Got 200 milliliters of primer.
200 milliliters of the hardener to 400. 1:1.
Same thing. Take you a screwdriver right where you pour at. Put 2 slots in it. That way it drips back down in the can, especially when you put the lid back on. Use your catalyst or hardener stick to stir. Put your lids back on immediately. And best what I do is put masking tape around the lid. Keep it sealed tightly. This stick, let it drain and wipe it off. Don't mix them.
Just don't put your catalyst hardener stick into the primer.
Use the same place you poured the next time. Stir, stir, stir.
And stir again.
You stir and you stir until you need to stir more. After the catalyst, the hardener's in it.
This is the most important part.
Stir it really, really well, and we have a 30-minute induction time. You let
Most
it sit
failures
for 30 minutes.
Comes from not stirring enough.
And then you can spray it. And it will get warm, so don't worry about that.
Sometimes.
Make sure you stir this so well. If you don't have a shaker or a drill bit with it, you've got to stir them both before you mix the two together. And then you've got to stir them very well after they're mixed. A shaker or a drill bit on a drill paddle
or drill paddle
is actually the best for a high build epoxy. Stir it. You're not going nowhere. You're going to have 30 minutes to sit and do whatever you have to do after you're done stirring it. This is very important. You have to mix it thoroughly. Double the time of anything else. This is actually saving you the step of putting the 600 series epoxy down, the 5300 high build primer. This is the same, you're just getting both worlds, epoxy for adhesion and high build primer. Your whole surface is protected in epoxy this way.
Waterproof.
Once this thing's stirred and stirred thoroughly, let it sit 30 minutes. And that's part of the failure of this, is not stirring it long enough. The only failure this product has is user error. Just do what you're supposed to do and you won't have a problem. All right. She's stirred. She's mixed thoroughly. 30 minutes to 45 minutes. Check it at 30 minutes. Set your clock for 30 minutes on your alarm, and we'll come back. Set your alarm clock. 30 minutes. And we'll come back.
In the winter, you want to give it that 45 minutes.
Let this just sit.
Especially if your shop is
Put
cooler.
these away. All right. Be back. We'll put it in the spray gun and do some spraying. Okay, we're at about the 25-minute mark. Letting this do its induction time for 30 minutes, tops 45. About 25 minutes, you want to grab your 398, final wipe, and wipe things down while you're waiting to finish your induction time. Gives you plenty of time. You can start this at 20 minutes, anytime you like. Gives you time to clean things thoroughly.
I recommend 397 wax and grease remover if you're going over old paint.
Or you could use 397, but I'm going over primer already on here.
397 is
want to use
the choice
397 on
going
primer.
over old paint. Sanded paint. If you got primer, stick with the 398.
Wipe everything down nice and clean.
But if you're epoxying over an old car that's got
high
paint,
builds on here, we'll do the filler work.
that's just sanded, use the 397. These pieces will be
same on the grill. Grill,
body
you have
worked
a lot of slots. Make
after
sure
the
you clean it down
epoxy.
really good. We'll go on.